I'm Robert Youds, and behind me I have my large installation entitled For Everyone a Fountain. And it's a project I've been working on for the last couple of years. And it's finally in its full fruition here. And it involves an assortment of materials, task lamps, aluminum sheet, galvanized steel sawhorses, what else? Computer. It's a Raspberry Pi which drives the lights, and the compositions in the lights are being determined by some code that was written that is reading photographic images of a garden. It takes us through 4 seasons of that garden. The exhibition is called For Everyone a Fountain, and it involves the large work behind me, first and foremost, and then essentially 3 other works. There's 2 wall-based pieces, there are windows with color changing in them as well, and then a large projection. In my mind, at least, I'm very interested in consciousness and how we shape it in our lives or inform it in our lives. Maybe I'll back up and say sensorial consciousness. So the things that in our lives, the objects in our lives that are informed by our quest for understanding ourselves, our own identity. So in this case, this is a set of tables that want to be a room, and a room that wants to be a garden. And that's the kind of cross-pollination, if you will, of the relationship of images to objects and how we hold them in our head. The kind of shifting nature of the world and of an individual, and how we remember and project at the same time. And so in the work, and every work that I make, I try to build into that kind of flux. So it's not entirely stable. It's not ever entirely an autonomous single message. That it really has a certain kind of fluidity open to interpretation. But also I'm very interested in making work that suggests a feeling back to the viewer of how it's made, a quality of how it's made. That's not necessarily a complicated one, that you have a sense of it being a built thing. And I think that is still probably the single most exciting thing anyone can experience around a work of art. I think artificial intelligence is allowing us to understand beyond the conventional boundaries of where things sit in definition. So what's a picture? What's an object? Can they be both things? Can a building remember? When I put together an exhibition, I look forward to perhaps the most is the sort of engineering of the space itself, so that the work is in conversation with the room in this case, the dimensions of the space, the scale of the room, the height of the ceilings, and so forth. And beyond that, I don't have particular notions or expectations how somebody is going to encounter it. That is to say, I do try to anticipate that, but I don't direct people in their experience. And so sort of how traces of humanity settle in an urban realm also is interesting to me. So, often what comes up is a question about what are rags that are grouped on one side of this work behind me, For Everyone a Fountain. And they're a form of gesture in my mind. They're a remnant. They were first introduced to the work, not by plan. They were rags I was using to clean the metal. And I became conscious about my own labor in the act of building the piece. And I just kind of liked that trace of humanism that exists in the rags that people will identify as clothes, but in fact they're chopped. But we still identify to ourselves really directly. I know that the work has a certain kind of complexity to it that doesn't reveal itself right away. It's work that you have to stay with for a while and let it almost wash over you, because it doesn't operate around conventional narratives. It's spatial work, and therefore it requires a contemplative nature. Yeah, I'm not an artist that's driven by autobiographical, psychobiographical approach to art. Right? I'm more interested in scenarios that are inclusive for everyone. And even in the titling for everyone, it comes from the great Canadian architect Moshe Sadafi, who is a brilliant architect, who his principles of design involve a kind of broad inclusiveness, utopian ideals, better world ideals, which I also am very interested in. Mini utopia, who we are and how we can be better.